enclave that is going to support our tourism industries, a whole enclave that is going to give us a presidential tour like you have in Washington, D.C., where on the inauguration of the president, he does a presidential tour, he goes through the House of Parliament, and he goes through all of those places, and that's what people are planning will happen in Ghana. I am a fundamental supporter of the establishment of a national cathedral to the glory. That's our first story for today, and we're moving on to the next one, where Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, the vice president, decided to set up something which he seems to have succeeded. I'll show you the video or perhaps maybe we should watch the video first of what he said he was going to do, and then we will come to what he has been able to do. I think that's a better way to put it, a better way to arrange it for our viewers to understand. Let's first show the viewers the video of what Dr. Bawumia promised to do. And for the people of Ghana, petroleum products are imported for our consumption, and is also imported to run our electricity establishment. So our electricity institutions and our electricity infrastructure is run on fuel. So government imports fuel to buy. The government has to find the dollars to do that. They believe that as government is finding dollars, as contractors are finding the dollars, you know that many road constructions are going on across the country. All of these contractors are looking for dollars to import clinker to do cement for the roads. So there's a lot of pressure on the dollar, and that's how come perhaps that
have declined. The depreciation of the cedi, as I have noted, has accelerated. A major source of cedi depreciation has been the demand for foreign exchange to finance the import of oil products. In fact, our import of oil products is around $3 billion annually. Persistent cedi and limited access to foreign exchange, as our foreign exchange reserves have depleted, and the demand has not fallen, but the demand has been relatively steady for that lower foreign exchange reserves. And so the demand exceeds the supply, and then you have depreciation. So the thinking that we said, okay, how do we get in more foreign exchange reserves for the country? Which means you don't have to export gold to earn that foreign exchange. You have to export cocoa, you have to export timber and other goods, foods and so on, to earn the foreign exchange. With gold, immediately you dig it up, it is foreign exchange. So you are essentially digging up foreign exchange. So I said, let me check how much gold we have proceeded to say the Bank of Ghana. We suggested to the central bank to begin a gold purchase program, systematically to build up our reserves in gold. And the gold program started last year, and it is proceeding quite well. But to address this fundamental challenge that we all face of the persisting our balance of payments, and significantly reduce the persistent depreciation of our currency with its associated increases in fuel, electricity, water, transport, and food prices. Why would it stop these persistent increases in fuel, water, and food prices? It is very simple. This is because the exchange rate, whether you are looking at the spot exchange around in that way, but essentially you are taking the exchange rate out of the equation. Today, our fuel prices are being priced at an exchange rate, a forward exchange rate of 19 cedis to the US dollar. Today, what we are paying at the pump is being priced at 19 cedis to the US dollar. So you can imagine when you price without exchange rate, major driver of these price increases. So if you are able to have a handle on the exchange rate movement, you are able to lower the depreciation of the currency at the same time as you lower this. And you are going to lower the depreciation of the currency because instead of the oil importers, especially the BDCs, going to the Bank of Ghana's window, discussion with the BBC, Reuters, Bloomberg, and some misinterpretation This has been misinterpreted as Ghana being against the use of US dollars in international transactions. This really is not the case. We are not on any mission against the use of US dollars in international transactions. Far from it. In fact, we want to accumulate more US dollars in our reserves.
So that's Dr. Bawumia. The texts have started coming. Let's take a short 2-minute break, and then we come back and continue what has actually happened right now, and then we go to the Attorney General. 2 minutes break. We'll be right back.
0.5 million Ghana cedis in the Betway Atina Ketia jackpot. A jackpot muhine. Bet responsibly, not for persons under the age of 18. This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
Secretary.
Yes, boss.
Patron Fakot document in bread.
Patron, you made boss, Patron. Oh, sorry, boss. Boss, na a drop in name, I'm saying.
Adunayide, football from around the world. Philly on HD Plus from 17 January 2023. Score HD is available only on HD Plus channel on Fight One.
A state-of-the-art facility built with your family needs in mind. A medical center positioned for all your fertility problems and other diseases. Medimosis Clinic and Prostate Center. Our goal is to help our patients achieve and maintain optimal health. We have insurance card and all other private insurance card. Medimosis Clinic and Herbal Center, your ultimate solution for prostate problems.
Forex market. The move will show up the strength of the cedi, and then passion for innovation and creative solutions, excellent leadership. That's what they say. Kudos to Alhaji Muhammadu Bawumia. So the Bawumia's oil for gold, gold for oil. The first one has come, and they say that one has saved the government $40 million. Bank of Ghana does not need to find $40 million, which would have found to import petroleum. That first consignment has come. Let's keep monitoring and keep an eye on that space. But we have to commend Dr. Bawumia for an innovative way of leading the country. In this country, we can't find many of our leaders doing things, as I keep saying, that was not there before they became leaders. People become presidents, they do their best. President Kufuor did excellent, other president did well, but we don't find often where a president can add an innovation. If we were adding innovations every decade since the 1960s, perhaps by now our country will have a different profile. Nonetheless, this has happened. Anyway, let's get to our big story now. So the individual bondholders, and we all are very sympathetic to their cause, and we agree that government must be empathetic to their cause. Now, those people who invested in government bonds as individuals are being told that they cannot get their money. Well, they cannot get any interest for this year. Not just that, the story gets worse for them, because in the continuing years, they are going to get just a percentage of their main, how do they call that, the principal, a percentage of their principal going all the way to 2038. That doesn't look like a great story, and there's been a lot of discussion about it. Some people have politicized this, which you have to give them the right to do so, but the government must be able to respond in a way that shows that they are a government listening, and they have the robust elasticity to be able to deal with all this. We believe in the abilities of Dr. Bawumia and others to be able to achieve this, but that's not the point today. The point today is that Ghanaians are concerned that their money may not return to their pockets, and they are worried about it, and we are worried if people who are Ghanaians who watch our program and watch our program for insights and watch our program for government discussions think that we are not paying attention to their problem. It's a major problem. I have friends who have called me about this, and tonight one of our social media people is looking at their platform the Debt Exchange People platform who are watching the program, and they are going to be responding to us. So let's go to the Attorney General's office and talk about this. Before I ask him about the debt exchange, though, I welcomed him to his office as Attorney General and congratulated him for ascending to the Attorney General's office as Ghana's youngest Attorney General since independence. Godfrey Dame welcomed us to his office today, and in this video that you're going to see, he talked about the debt exchange program. What is his opinion about it? Can government keep the money or not? Here's the tape. Honorable Attorney General, congratulations. You are the youngest Attorney General in the history of Ghana, and you started this job 2 years ago, isn't it? Must have been challenging.
Well, definitely, it is challenging in view of the constitutional mandates of the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the protector of the public interest, and that, of course, places the onerous duty of ensuring that whatever is right for ensuring sound administration of justice is secured. And because you see, the Attorney General is placed in a situation where he's a principal legal advisor to the government, is constitutionally designated as a defender or the defendant in all civil proceedings against the state. He is also responsible, solely vested with prosecutorial authority in the Republic. So clearly, I mean, this places the Attorney General right at the heart of government, and his functions are no doubt crucial to the sustenance of good governance, sound administration of justice, rule of law, and what have you. Of course, armed with the equipment, relevant equipment, as I would say, by the Most High Lord Almighty, we always overcome the challenges.
Is it true that all successful lawyers, when people start practicing law and they are successful, they either want to be Attorney General or Chief Justice? So the history is long. Joe Reindorf, Akufo-Addo, Joe Gate, Ayub Kreotu, Betty Modidrisu, Martin Amidu.
Yeah.
Did you start thinking at the time you started practicing and seeing some success that maybe one day I want to be Attorney General?
I mean, first and foremost, the Attorney General, no doubt, is the leader of the bar. So if you're a member of the bar, no doubt, you would aspire to be the leader of the bar. Of course, in terms of the dispensation of justice, the Chief Justice is also the ultimate in terms of justice delivery. So these two positions, no doubt, are at the very top. At the bar, the Attorney General is a leader, and on the bench, the Chief Justice is the leader. So yes, it's natural for one to aspire to be like that. Of course, I found myself on the path of conducting many cases of public importance, public interest, and law when I was in the law firm of Akufo-Addo & Co. And I think somehow, I mean, at every stage, I must say, at every stage of my appointment, either as Deputy Attorney General or as Attorney General, somehow the President, in all humility, said, well, you earned it. So perhaps, maybe, my line of practice caught me into this position. And of course, I also had the aspiration right from the beginning. So
let's talk about the role that of Attorney General that you talked about as a defender of the public, defender of rights.
Right.
People say their monies have been locked up in what the government calls debt exchange program.
Right.
They are referring to a certain advice that you gave, that you have told the government to pay them their money. Can you give us the context of that advice that you've given? That they say that Attorney General says it's illegal for governments to hold our money for individual bondholders. They say they want their money. They say government says they cannot give them their money in the budget. But they say the Attorney General says that government should give us our money. What is the context?
Well, I think the context is that the opinion was delivered on the strength of a request by the Minister of Finance. And I found it quite interesting that the Minister of Finance is of a request for such an opinion, because in their letter, they actually recognize the fact that various options that would be possibly explored by them, may encounter some legal challenges. So one option was recourse to executive action by the government exercising, or the President exercising powers under Article 31 of the Constitution, or perhaps Article 21 of the Constitution, which relates to curtailment to the rights of persons, to impose such a measure on the bondholders. And they themselves recognize that it may be fraught with some challenges. Another option was also by the Minister for Finance exercising his powers to enact a subsidiary legislation, some kind of constitutional instrument or an ally to regulate the bondholders and all. And they felt that that was quite onerous and it will require my opinion on it. And then, of course, they also explored the question whether a voluntary engagement to the bondholders would also serve the end that was required. And then they actually also explore the question whether Parliament could also be prayed to exercise its legislative powers to enact legislation to curtail the rights of bondholders. And so I delivered an opinion in respect of all the issues. Now, first point that I made was that in terms of the exercise by the Minister of Finance of his powers to use the subsidiary legislation to curtail the rights, as it were, of the bondholders, that will have to be done within the context of the relevant laws governing the Office of the Minister for Finance. The Fiscal Responsibility Act remarkably gives the Minister for Finance the power to ensure fiscal discipline, and it vests the Minister of Finance with the power to use regulations to ensure fiscal discipline. And that would entail that the Minister of Finance could enact regulations in the form of a subsidiary legislation, a legislative instrument, to perhaps curtail certain rights when it comes to, or in terms of an adverse financial situation. I took the view that the power to enact regulations must be on the strength of a specific provision in a law, the primary law, that's the substantive legislation. So you cannot enact legislation or subsidiary legislation and ally to affect anybody's right when the substantive legislation on the basis of which the ally has been enacted does not closely with that power. And I saw the circumstances within which the Minister for Finance may exercise his powers to enact such regulations under or by the combined effect of Section 7 and 3 and then 1, as well as even 2 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, as not permissive of such a procedure. And then also in terms of the recourse to executive action, my view is that yes, the President has the power to declare emergency situation, but of course that power is exercised within the circumstances set out in the Constitution itself. So those relate to natural disaster, route, and other such emergency and all that. And really, so this situation that we found ourselves in was not within the premises of such a provision. Then also under Article 21, which is the power of the President to curtail fundamental human rights and all that. Of course, that is first of all subject to provisions spelled out in Article 21 itself, and also that did not give basis or a foundation for such a recourse. And then generally, the power of Parliament to enact an act of Parliament to regulate or affect such a situation. The power of Parliament to enact legislation itself is subject to restrictions imposed on Parliament by the Constitution itself. So refer to Article 107 of the Constitution, which talks about, or which prohibits Parliament from enacting legislation which will adversely affect the rights of persons, or which will operate retrospectively to impose limitations or burdens upon people. So that such legislation clearly will be caught by the requirements of Article 107. So Parliament will be restrained in enacting such legislation. Also, Article 18 and Article 20 of the Constitution, which talks about property rights and all. Yes, because a person's bond or money is a person's property, and therefore legitimate constitutional questions can be raised as to propriety of such legislation by Parliament. And so ultimately, I took the view that if you need a bond instrument, the bond instrument is the nature of a contract. And of course, the manner in which the contract can be varied is subject to the common law principles of amendment of contract, which is that a party must agree to amend the terms of a contract. And unilateral modification of the terms of a contract will be declared void if it is not subject to the agreement of the party. And I felt that really, yes, voluntary engagement was the best way possible. And I think it's very pertinent to place on record that Parliament, the Minister for Finance, actually operated within the premise of the opinion
that people are saying that they have not been consulted, that they have not been engaged to have a voluntary amendment of their contract, that they want their money. The government is telling them that under the debt exchange program, one of the categories that will not receive their money for 2023 is individual bondholders. They are saying now that they want their money, and they are saying, you said they can have their money.
No, I didn't say they could have their money. The effect of the opinion, I see a copy of it before you, is what I stated. So I think that, yes, if I may.
Let's look at what you
said. So the effect of the opinion is that, yes, Minister of Finance can vary the terms, but of course subject to agreement by the bondholders.
So without
that they cannot be
yes,
there cannot be a unilateral imposition of the terms on the party.
The 2023 budget that's gone to Parliament contained that announcement.
Yeah, I think yes. So these are projections by the government of Ghana.
Yes,
I would think that yes, it could be projections. Yes. So in respect of the first question, the legality of a unilateral attempt by the government to introduce collective action clauses, which is a decision by a majority to affect the right of the minority into the bond. I stated clearly that a traditional contract doctrine forbids the unilateral modification of contract and treats a proposed unilateral modification as an offer that is not binding until accepted. So if you want to unilaterally modify the terms of the contract,
if they don't accept it, government cannot proceed.
Yeah, I think it's in essence, and I think
the deadline for,
precisely. So that clearly
for continuous voluntary
negotiation. Yes. So that clearly indicates the engagement, the acceptance. Yes. Yes, the government is engaging.
So the route that you're advising government on is that yes, you can verify, but you have to have their permission to do so.
Yes, and from where I sit, I'm aware of series of engagements by the Minister of Finance or the relevant stakeholders. Indeed, even before this opinion was solicited, as part of the engagement, which of course did not end with only government institutions or government agencies. The IMF people had actually been to my office a number of times. We had various discussions and all. I stated the same position to them and all. So this opinion was only a confirmation of discussions that we had held.
But right now
I remember, yes, and I'm saying
that's why they are saying that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that even
we should say yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying that even the decision to extend the deadline for acceptance of the terms itself is indicative of the engagement process that has gone on. So clearly engagement is going on. So I do not see any departure from or variation of the terms of this opinion by the Minister of Finance. I mean, I think that they're operating within it.
Yeah, but and the question, they are not happy to engage in that regard. They want their money, so they don't want to vary the terms.
Yeah. So I think that ultimately, yes, as I said, an imposition will not be proper. So I think the engagement could result in a decision by the Minister of Finance, which is the appropriate body vested with decisions over matters of finance. Even in this office, when it comes to matters of finance and all, will indicate as part of our opinion that refer this part to the Minister of Finance. So the Minister of Finance will ultimately, as a result of the engagement process, decide whether to agree to what you say, give me my money or not.
Well, but the people are preparing to now petition to you that we don't want to engage. We want our money for 2023. And you said that without our buy-in, our say-so, government cannot unilaterally impose the new debt exchange program on them. That means they are the stronger party, not government.
Well, I am aware of various actions that have been threatened, and perhaps that have also been announced as having been taken, even though I'm yet to be served with a specific rate of summons on application to the courts of Ghana. So I think that, yes, the people, with all respect, are at liberty to make any kind of request. But I'm saying that there must be reasonableness in this situation. There must be reasonableness having regard to the circumstances within which we find ourselves and all. And I'm also saying, secondly, that it's a Minister of Finance which is vested with the mandate to determine matters of finance. So, yes, whether Minister of Finance will agree to the request for the individual bondholders to be excluded or not is one for the Minister for Finance.
But you will urge the individual bondholders to be what, patriotic and distinct?
Yeah, I would say cooperation. I think and that's one thing that I've always wanted to make one point out. The circumstances within which we find ourselves. I'm not trying to reiterate any point that has been made as part of the political response at all. But indeed and in fact, globally, all these hardships and circumstances are attributable primarily to the limitations that were imposed on the world by the COVID-19 situation. I was in the United Kingdom when the SR Prime Minister of the United Kingdom took office, Liz Truss, in September. And remarkably, she cited two factors as responsible for the economic challenges of the United Kingdom. And those two factors, it's worthy to note, are the COVID-19 situation and the results of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And I found it quite remarkable because we were in Ghana, I had just come from traveled from Ghana to the United Kingdom on some official program, and then the swearing in of the new, the assumption of office of the new Prime Minister happened. And of course, we all took an interest in it. And I listened to the speech live. And I found it quite remarkable that she, in the United Kingdom, will be citing these two major factors. And this is a factor that was roundly accepted by the people of the United Kingdom and all. So how much more an economy as fragile as Ghana's? So I think it cannot really be some kind of political response on the part of the government when these two factors are cited for the circumstances within which we find ourselves. Yes, the war in Russia and Ukraine may seem far, but the effect really felt here. And I think we must all cooperate and at this time see if it's possible for us to come along. We come along as much as possible. And I trust this government, of course, to come up with the right economic solutions to the problem.
Coming up next is the Attorney General telling us about the Capital Bank case. Many people were concerned about the 90 million the Capital Bank was made to pay. And I put the question to him that people still go in for 15 years. What happened to Capital Bank? Coming up is that one. Now, though, let's go to the text messages and see what people are saying about this all-important matter. Just then, just before we do that, though, Franklin Kujo, one of our patrons here on Good Evening Ghana, has put something up on Facebook, and we have to read it to you. It's as follows. Franklin Kujo says, just in, the Individual Bondholders Forum has been invited by the Minister of Finance to a meeting tomorrow to discuss their petition to be excluded from the debt exchange program. He says we'll update you. We are happy with that. Franklin Kujo of Imani, Ghana, one of our good patrons here on Good Evening Ghana, is putting it up. Let's put it up and read it again. So that's in addition to what Godfrey Dame is saying. And that may be, as Godfrey Dame said, the Minister of Finance, in keeping with the advice of the Attorney General. Put it up again and let me have a look at it. It says that the Individual Bondholders Forum has been invited by the Minister of Finance to a meeting tomorrow to discuss the petition to exclude to be excluded from the debt exchange program. We'll update you on that. So hopefully a meeting is going to occur tomorrow. We hope that peace will prevail after the meeting, because individual bondholders must either be convinced by government, as the Attorney General said, to be patriotic and go along with the debt exchange program, or their legitimate earnings must be given to them by the government that serves them, isn't it? By the government that serves them. I like to repeat that. By the government that serves them. And tonight we have one of our Facebookers looking at the individual bondholders platform, and they have been commenting on what we are doing, and we'll be hearing what the comments that they have. Now, though, let's start from the general comments from Ghanaians about this. Mikhail, what are people saying?
Right. Give me that. Apologies. So, Kumankama in Team Sapon says, I salute you, Honorable Attorney General, for the good work you're doing for Mother Ghana. Alidu Umar, watching us from the University of Education, Winnipeg, says, Paul, this our current Attorney General is doing a fantastic job for Mother Ghana, Pa, because he's able to defend many of the Adodankwa government's mess in terms of legal perspective. In fact, Godfrey Dame is the law, and the law is Godfrey Dame, nothing less and nothing more, period. Returning to more general issues, Joe Dakota from Esikado Ketan says, indeed, Dr. Bawumia has proven that when it comes to the management of the complex business of the economy, he is second to none. No wonder he is the NDC's greatest nightmare. Morris from Wasa Akropong says, God bless Dr. Bawumia for this initiative. Visionary leaders think outside the box. He continues, hashtag next to lead. Abduzati, watching us from Bolgatanga, says, at this crucial moment, and developing country like Ghana, we need an innovative and wide-minded leader like Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I quote Dr. Okoboy that once said, the VEEP is an individual asset to this country of ours. Indeed it is, and must be grateful for that. The first consignment is in, and we are looking forward to having much more. My regards to the Upper East Regional Women's Organizer, Mrs. Ayamba Georgina. Now to you, Karen. Let's see what you have.
Thank you. Okay, so from Nana Kwejo, he says, Ghana has been mining gold for more than 400 years and still has gold in abundance. The Bank of Ghana should continue to purchase more gold to shore up our reserves in order to buy more oil. Honestly speaking, Ghana is blessed to have a very intelligent, brilliant vice president who has set a standard no vice president in the years to come or before him ever catch up. DMB is a gem and genius. From Felix Apia, he says, some regimes came where we only heard and knew the president. This is the first time we have had a vibrant vice president who has made the office of the vice president useful and meaningful. Xavier Noble says, hallelujah, our vice president has introduced barter trade to save the depreciation of the cities. Ghana owns theory of cashless system. Of course, we are different. Paul, you are such a wonderful person. I really love your program. Good evening. Watching you live inside Danko in the Upper West region by Isaha Kujiga. Over to you.
Okay, so Richard Asamoah says, why were things not well explained before? They could have used some of these platforms, and I believe it is too late for any explanation. I believe she's talking about the individual bondholders. Coming from Felix Apia. Fantastic Attorney General, he knows his staff. Master Planner Junior Kintampo says, when it comes to economics, Dr. Alhaji Bawumia is undoubtedly the best in Africa and Ghana. He is a gift to this country, next to lead and best to lead. Greetings to Honorable Stephen in Team NPP National Chairman. Edward Dugbaja says, in Ghana, nobody uses 2 passports or 2 Ghana cards since we are using the biometric technology. I believe he's talking about Reverend Kusi Boateng's case. Kwekutre Karikari Apau says, Mr. Paul, the gold for oil will save Ghana some forex, but don't forget the foreign companies in Ghana are waiting steadily to consume and repatriate these same forex that the government is trying to save. At the end of the day, the economy will come back to square one, in my opinion, though. Yusuf Abdul Razak Guno says, good evening, Mr. Paul, watching you live from Savalugu. Kudos to Alhaji Bawumia for the good work he's doing to the country. Appreciation to you, Mr. Paul. Rolf Musa Meyaga says, at this juncture, DMB is the way forward for the NPP in the upcoming presidential primaries of the NPP. The NPP will rally behind His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Bawumia to lead us into the 2024 elections. This we will do for reasons similar to why we did it for Kufuor and Nana Addo. We are rallying behind Dr. Bawumia, not because he hails from here, but because he represents our best foot forward on all metrics going into 2024. Given who and what Dr. Bawumia represents in the NPP today, the party will rally behind him. Dr. Bawumia is today the most popular NPP politician after Nana Addo, coming from Raf Musa. Lastly, from Abdullah Abdul Razak, DMB has raised the bar and others are trying so hard to catch up with him. He is a consummate politician, a genius, and an adventurous person, and next to lead. Over to you, Yolanda.
Yes, so Yolanda is going to read from the bondholders platform, and we have an acknowledgement from Franklin Kujo, who says that he's watching. Thank you very much, Franklin. We sincerely hope that individual bondholders will get their money. People's money should not be lost, and should not be lost because of a program by the government that serves them. The government that serves them. So, what are they saying?
Okay, so responses have been generally slow, which is understandable considering the fact that these people are probably overwhelmed by all of the amount of information they are getting at any point in time. But from Kofi Sapon, what we get is, he says, the thinking now is how they will defend Ministry of Finance within the context of the AG's opinion. I sense we are in for a fight when we start litigating. He also continues. Paul equally did a summary afterwards to say the extension is Ministry of Finance listening to engage further on IBF folks. The proposal to pay 2% as coupon interest for 2023, other than the existing 0%, is one I have equally gotten wind of. So generally what is going on here is that they are discussing what the Attorney General has said because they didn't have access to that information. I will bring you more as and when they come. Thank you. All
right, excellent. So she's going to keep an eye on the bondholders platform. Good evening to you, Senor Jose. We had a conversation 2 days ago, wasn't it? 2 days ago, I was abroad when my brother Senor called me and said, Charlie Paul, what are your people doing? Charlie, we need our money. I said, Senor, cool down, cool down. I agree with you that your money must be paid. I think that negotiations are going on. And he said, okay. And they are working themselves together. Tomorrow, they'll be meeting the Minister of Finance. We hope that peace will prevail. And they are going to continue to flag the Attorney General's opinion. Attorney General has advised the Ministry of Finance that you cannot do that unilaterally. You have to engage with them. Now, let's go to the second file of the Attorney General as it's 20 minutes past 10 o'clock. The Attorney General was asked in this segment about the Capital Bank case. Now, the concern about many people was that there was a lot of hula baloo about Capital Bank. 620 million is a figure they mentioned. The Attorney General broke it down and explained to us why it may not be 620 million that the Capital Bank owed, which is what people thought. Okay, and then I asked him the question, why must the person steal a goat and go in for 15 years in jail? And then they say that business people, big people, rich people, they are said to have taken government money and they are just told to pay it back. That he answered that question, which is a question that's been agitating our minds. Later on tonight, he also spoke about LGBT. Here is the Attorney General on the Capital Bank case. Many Ghanaians who have been interested in the justice delivery system of my generation, people who are about 45 years here in this country, have continuously read in the newspapers, the Times, the Spectator, about somebody steals a goat, is going in for 18 years, somebody steals something small, is going in for a long time, some people quarrel at Kotokoraba markets, they are in for 7 years. And the people following the Capital Bank case heard that the accused persons were allowed to pay substantial amount of money, I should say, and then they go off. 2 weeks after that, the Graphic published a story of a guy who had stolen a goat, 15 years in jail. Now, the comments under the online story had many people called out your name and said, Godfrey Dame is looking at this, and so rich people pay back and poor people go to jail. They said if you had allowed the guy to access the so-called plea bargaining, all those people online would have contributed to pay for this, and he would have gone back home. You preside over this. Is it a bad system?
I think that first and foremost, I must concede to some proportionate sentences and punishment for some offences existing on the statute books of Ghana. I'm saying it's proportionate and inequitable punishment for some offences on the statute books of Ghana, because just last week a situation came to our attention. A foreigner was attempting to smuggle gold out of the country, and there was an immediate need for us to bring the person into book. My examination of the Criminal Offences Act showed that the punishment for smuggling gold or diamond was actually death. And that's
kill the person.
Kill the person.
Execute.
Sitting on the statute books of Ghana. The criminal offences of no, it was an amendment. It was actually effected in the 1960s, and I think that was with regards to the context within which the nation was. The 1960s, gold was a major commodity, cocoa the same. So very serious punishment were actually levied against those who attempted to smuggle gold. And those laws still exist on the statute books of Ghana. And I think that ultimately there has to be a comprehensive review in order to ensure that such offences are scrapped off or taken off of the statute books of Ghana. So indeed, we have to then have recourse to other alternative punishment for the same offence, because the Minerals and Mining Act at 703 specified a lower sentence for smuggling gold. You cannot say that if a person smuggles gold. Indeed, the gold was just about 1.3 kilos.
But you killed him.
Yeah, but you killed a person, and that the value of that amount of gold that was sought to be smuggled was only 1.2 million Ghana cedis or so. So does that warrant imposition of punishment of death on the person? No. I, as a Attorney General, exercised my discretion and directed the DPP that though we have to have recourse to this other law, which also imposed a much lower sentence. So I think that when it comes to prosecution and determination of sentencing, a lot of factors are taken into account. Now we are in a situation where there has been a strong advocacy for imposition of alternative sentences for various offences. And indeed, those alternative sentences for various offences are actually with regards to the object of the prosecution. So in respect of matters bordering on finance or financial crimes and all, the primary concern of the state, not just Ghana or Africa, but worldwide, is recovery of the loss in question. Of course, there might be some punishment at all. So in addition to the recovery of the loss, there's also certain disabilities placed in the way of the convict. So the person, of course, will be disabled from holding office. The person will be disabled from carrying himself or holding himself as a director in the company and all. That is a lifetime disability placed on the person. So And also the point I'm making, yes, before definitely I get to the point in no time. The point I'm making is that the procedure for punishment of crime is most often dictated by the law under which the crime is punished. So financial crime is partly regulated by Section 35 of the Courts Act, which stipulates that in matters bordering on economic loss to the state, an accused person, of course with the consent or agreement of the state, may come by such a process which will result in the punishment of, the imposition of a penalty as well as compensation instead of or in lieu of custodial sentence, to use the words of the statute, in lieu of custodial sentence. So once an accused person comes under Section 35 of the Courts Act, clearly custodial sentence is excluded, and that is limited to only economic losses affecting the state. It is also affected by where the offense is being prosecuted. A circuit court, in respect of which an offense is being prosecuted, does not have the power to have recourse to Section 35. It happens only in respect of offenses being prosecuted in the High Court. So first and foremost, the forum within which the person is being prosecuted, the nature of offense that the person is being prosecuted, the agreement of the prosecution are all essential requirements for the application of Section 35. And so this is exactly what happened. And I think, and I'm saying that even citing this recent example of the Airbus scandal, the global Airbus scandal, you would note that there was actually recourse to an alternative means of punishment. And even in that Airbus scandal, the people actually escaped conviction. So it was actually in lieu of conviction, and they made good the sum and all. So if somebody steals a good, it's prosecuted under regular stealing.
They don't take cognizance of what he stole.
Yes.
No,
if you steal a goat, if somebody comes and steal your goat, with all respect, it doesn't involve a economic loss to the state. So that analogy or that allusion, with all respect, does not apply. But that's again, that's high-handed, and that's what I'm saying, that there must be a federal reform of the law. Indeed, this office is actually leading the effort to amend the law by the introduction of an alternative sentencing act. So that we'll come to that. So sentencing act. So part of my so my answer is in two folds. First and foremost, the law under which the capital bank matter, or the laws regulating the prosecution of the capital bank matter, permitted recourse to Section 35. Now, so in going by Section 35, the prime object for the state will be whether the loss has been recovered, or there will be sufficient restitution or compensation for the state for the offense. Now, I will, in all humility, deem this arrangement pursued in respect of the capital bank matter, Republic versus William Atwison, and two others, as the best that has been secured for the state so far.
A successful prosecution?
Yes, because first and foremost, the whole of the salmon issue, as far as I'm concerned, was recovered by the state. Now, this is a case where the accused person was insisting on being liable for only 27 million Ghana cedis. I insisted that our review of the evidence shows that, yes, he is responsible for at least 90 million Ghana cedis, and that ought to be paid.
That's a wide disparity, 27 and 19.
Yes, precisely. And that's actually, and if you read the judgment to the court, in this case, the judgment was actually given. The judgment, a full judgment to the court was given. There was a conviction of the first accused, and then there was an acquittal of the second and third accused persons. Now, Atwison was the primary, or the main accused person in that matter. Now, most of the offenses that the second and third accused persons were acquitted in respect of actually also affected Atwison. So there's actually even a likelihood. Yes, so
if they were acquitted,
yes,
then you cannot
even guarantee.
You cannot fine him for
first and foremost, apart from not even guarantee the guilt of the first accused in respect of all of, because the second and third accused persons were wholly. That's
a loss for you.
It is a loss. Yes, the state actually. Yes, so good. So Section 35 actually secures conviction for the state. That is one, because it assures that the state will be successful.
Yeah.
An accused person may actually be wary of going to jail, yes, come under Section 35. But if he obtains some counsel, and of course the case proceeds to a logical conclusion, the guilt of the accused person cannot be guaranteed. So in respect of the second and third accused, I remember sitting in this office, asking the question, so why is it only the first accused person, the one having recourse to the other, and actually extended overture to the second and third accused person to also come along if they desired. And that's actually one of the reasons why the process delayed. And initially they were coming along, and somehow they resigned from the process. So supposing they had come along that process, they would also have been convicted, and then they would have been made to pay some more money to the state. Is that not the case?
Yes, it is.
Yes. but hold on. But the point I'm making is that without the benefit of hindsight, it means that they would have subjected themselves to a plea of guilt, even though ultimately the judge was going to acquit them. So apart from the benefit of Section 35, it secures conviction for the state. Secondly, it also secures recovery of the losses in issue for the state. I have been in this office, seen many cases in which accused persons have been thrown to jail, and the state has labored without success in recovering the loss at all. I can cite the recent high-profile case of Republic versus William Tevi and 3 others also. The NCA matter, $4 million in issue. Yes. Accused persons convicted.
Yes.
The question that how much has been recovered of that one?
But
Can you
convict them?
Yes, the court ordered
custodial sentence.
Yes.
And also ask for money.
Yeah, precisely. So there can be yes, the court. There's a provision of the Criminal Offences Act, the Criminal Procedure Act.
Punishing them twice.
No, not at all, because you cannot enjoy the proceeds of your crime. The law.
You put them in custodial sentence.
Yeah, but that we can serve the term and then come and enjoy the proceeds of your crime. And indeed, that's what we are actually suffering in the NCA matter. We have not recovered even one city.
That's
because yes, it's our work. And yes, no, it's not our failure, because you see, the accused person, after having been convicted and thrown into jail, that's not a duty to even disclose any assets. It's up to the state, as you are saying, to go through the process of discovering his assets and auctioning him. And so far, the only asset that we've discovered of one accused person is that, with all respect, in the Savannah region of Ghana, and the value of that one is 150,000 Ghana cedis. That has just been presented by the auctioneer. So I think that
comes after they've been sentenced for 4 years, which is about finishing now.
So I think
that come out of prison, would you then oblige them to help you to find their assets?
Well, there's no obligation. Yes, so it is. That's what I'm saying. So the value to Section 35 is one, securing of conviction for the state. Secondly, recovery of the loss to the state. Those are secured. The only thing the state loses is the serving of a custodial sentence.
Well,
so apart from custodial,
say that, so I can steal the money, invest the money, do my money stuff, make money, and then pay the state backward and keep the rest. So whether there is a rest or not is the concern people had about the 90 million that was paid. Now,
yeah, but the 90 million that was paid. That's why I make the point that indeed that amount, for me, constituted great success to the part of the state. The person was conceding only 27 million. Ultimately, I literally forced them that without an agreement to that 90 million, then there will be no transaction. Trial will proceed. Judgment given. If they still loses, they still loses. If the accused person is convicted and thrown to jail, so be it.
Legal gamble.
Precisely. So, and indeed, in terms of the specific terms for the payment, this was the best. Under high profile matter in which Section 35 was resorted to was the venture capital matter.
Yes.
In the case where sums total about 40 million was an issue. The state settled for 50 million Ghana cedis without any 15 without any controversy whatsoever.
Have you found it?
And no, and that one. The state, the agreement by the state enjoined the accused person to pay only 1 million Ghana cedis. That was just a few years ago. And to date, the state has labored without success to sell the asset. But the court ordered, unlike this one, where we insisted that there will be no assets in issue at all. The accused person owes a duty entirely to pay 1/3 to present the money, and that is all. Because I have gone through all this process trying to sell assets in Woyombe, the way. So yes, so now I actually considering setting aside the whole agreement reached in the Virtual Capital one.
Back to the court.
Precisely, has been contrary to Act 459. Well, I cannot understand how an accused person can be ordered to pay 1 million Ghana cedis out of 50 million Ghana cedis, the rest spread over, I think, over a year or 2 years, and that the state, in default, will have to go and sell the person's assets. The proper requirement is for, in default, the accused person will have to go to jail. And that's actually what was agreed on in the Atuese matter.
So and they feel hard done by, because they say that the whole money in issue, which was they believe was spent wrongly by the media, is 620 million, which is a loan they took from the Bank of Ghana, which is a loan, so they were paying. And they had paid the loan up to a significant part of it. They take responsibility for the 27 million that was said to have been for some custom charges or something like that.
No,
it
was finder's fee.
Finder's fee, 27 million. They take responsibility for that.
Yes.
Now they say that beyond that, they can show you where all the 620 million is. A lot of them still with Bank of Ghana.
Yeah.
So they feel hard done by. Now you are saying to us that you managed to collect more than could have been reasonably earned from the case. Is that the point?
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. I'm saying that also the sum 620 million is wrong. It's erroneous. The amount in issue in the case was not 620 million. 620 million only represented the total amount of liquidity support given by the Bank of Ghana to Capital Bank. So Bank of Ghana, acting on behalf of the government of Ghana, gave a total amount of 620 million Ghana cedis in liquidity support to Capital Bank. But in terms of the amount appropriated, it was about just under 190 million Ghana cedis. And the processes at the trial, in fact, even the processes in investigation, disclosed that parts of the money had actually been recovered, had been paid. And at the trial, clear refutable evidence was also given that amount totally in all 100 million Ghana cedis had been recovered. So those were amounts that properly could be accounted for. I mean, they're not really. So I think that there's some issue. That's why we contended that was 90 million Ghana cedis. And of course, which was what they also further disputed, and which perhaps is the basis for the statement that you're making, that we're saying that everything had been paid apart from 27 million Ghana cedis. So that's a true situation. The amount in issue at the trial was 190 million cedis, and 100 million Ghana cedis was clearly shown as having been recovered to the bank and all that. And so it was every 90 million Ghana cedis in contention, out of which 27 million was submitted.
So how do you monitor that the rest of the dates, the payment is done in February something?
Well, so that's one headache that I've relieved myself of. I told the negotiations resulted in the accused persons accepting, and that has been reduced into an agreement, that has been reduced into a judgment by the court, that they will pay 1/3, 30 million, even before the court to consider their agreement, and that was done. So 30 million is out of the way. The 60 million has been spread in 3 installments. Any default on each of the installments will result in they going to jail straight away. I did not bear the headache.
For how many hours?
Well, default for 1 day. A single day. Really? Yes, precisely. I mean, I go by a letter of the law.
A single day's default is okay.
Precisely. I mean, so he has to be to minded. And of course, that's also in addition to the further limitations on him. He cannot hold himself out as a director in any financial institution, and then he also cannot stand for office and all that. So, and he stands as a convicted person. So, I think, as I said, the only thing that is missing is custodial sentence. Apart from that, the state secured conviction in that Atuese matter.
So you concede that you lost 2 of the
accused persons. Yes, essentially, yes. 2 of them.
Many Ghanaians who have been interested in the justice. Then I come to you for the one with social media. We're arranging how we send you the text messages. You know, we don't just read the text message just like that. We plan it. So we're doing that planning. So that's Attorney General speaking on the Atuese matter. Now we are going to the LGBT, which is a 10-minute long exposure. He had a lot to say about it. Later on, we ask him about whether the NPP can break the 8 and who can they break the 8 with. Alacha Martin, Dr. Baumia, Kennedy Japan. He answered all of those questions on break the 8. He had a very interesting twist to it. I already told you. He said, whilst they are breaking the 8, the NPP is going to do the return that has never been done. Mikhail, what do you have?
Right. Okay. So coming from Pak Anochi says, my brothers, Muslims, this is your turn to support Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. And from Gasti Man, he says, if people are going to be asked to pay the money they stole without any other punishment, then politicians will steal from the state forever. What sort of principles are these? Now, Just in Case says, sentencing law is way overdue. Please review it. And Felix Apia replies to that by saying longest time. Let's have what you have, Karen.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so Collins Anafa says, good to hear that at least we would appreciate what actually is going on Capital Bank and matters arising as well as who is saying the truth. Don Medical says, what a great lawyer. God bless him. Abdul Aziz says, I like watching your educative program. Keep up, Mr. Paul. And lastly, from Felix, he says, fantastic attorney general. He knows his stuff. Over to you.
Okay, so Felix from Political Zone, he says, this man knows the Constitution and acts by heart. We saw the attorney generals who came before him, and he is the best. Ghana. Also coming from James Jani, my sincere admiration for this young, brilliant Attorney General is inexpressible. Godfred, God bless you. Great work, Mr. Paul Adumotri from Joe Elam. Paul, I made a proposition the last time that you put your program on radio. How far with that? I hope you're still considering that. Good evening. Lastly, from Eric Breffy, in fact, I'm so disturbed about this issue. And I think the Capital Bank issue needs to be talked more about. Over to you, Yolanda.
Before Yolanda comes in, all right, let's take Yolanda first so she can prepare for it. You have one message from our people, isn't it? The bondholders. What are they saying?
So I did, but they just came out with some information that they would not like to share it yet. Okay. And so we will just allow them to be comfortable and... Okay, so you know it, but they don't want to share. So yes, they don't. Is it positive or negative? It is positive. For who? For them. Okay. All right. Yeah. In terms of getting their money. Yes. It's just a lot of sentiments about the road that led to where we are now and possibly what could be done to make it better outside. Well, they're accusing government of all the over borrowing and all of those things. I've heard that. That, and also the fact that, well, they should be excluded from this. So that's the main reason why they formed the forum to begin with, because they do not believe that. But they have a meeting tomorrow. Included. Are they sure that? Yes. So who are attending? Is it their leaders or we don't know? So we don't know for sure yet, but it will definitely be some of the members that formed the executive body of the association that was formed. Okay, let's come and talk about our French audience have not heard from us for a while. So Eunice is going to do 2 text messages and translate in French relating to the same matter as we go after that to the Attorney General's opinions on LGBT. Eunice.
So Kamal from Mama Saman says that the issue of the debt exchange program that is going to affect the individual bondholders must be handled very well by government. The Minister of Finance should not portray a posture as though the bondholders have no option other than they signing on to what the government is proposing to them. So in French, we're going to read. Kamal Amassaman Broni, la question du programme d'échange des dettes qui va toucher les détenteurs d'obligations individuelles doit être très bien traitée par le gouvernement. Le ministre des Finances ne devrait pas donner l'impression que les détenteurs d'obligations doivent choisir une autre chose. And from Richard Asamoah, he says, why were things not well explained before? It is too late for any explanation. De Richard Asamoah, pourquoi les choses n'étaient pas bien expliquées auparavant? Il est trop tard pour une explication. And from Luis, he says, the whole situation is due to lack or little engagement. Apparently, government didn't learn anything from the illevy situation. Toute la situation est à cause du manque au peu d'engagement. Apparemment, le gouvernement n'a rien appris de la situation illevy.
Okay, so that's for our French audience, and Eunice is bringing that to you. Let's move on to our next schedule of the interview, because we have 15 minutes to go to the top of the hour. 11, most likely we're going beyond 11 tonight. 10 minutes more, the Attorney General, Godfred Dame, on LGBT. Let's go to Parliament, where you are quite popular based on your very successful vetting at the beginning of your tenure as Attorney General. You have issued an opinion about the LGBT controversy, the private members' bill, standing in the name of principally some George Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, and I believe some members of the majority side as well. What opinion have you rendered to Parliament? Should the bill succeed or should the bill not succeed? If the bill succeeds, Ghana is going to declare itself as an anti-LGBT society. We don't want LGBT. It is illegal. It's criminalized. If the bill does not succeed, then we will remain with what we have, which is sodomy in the Criminal Offences Act, and that's about it. The big question is the advocacy about LGBT. Should it be criminalized or should it not be criminalized? That's really where the issue is. What opinion do you render to Parliament?
Well, so I think first of all, it's important to note that the bill is a private member's bill, and ordinarily it's not permissive of an opinion of the attenderer. But in view of the very weighty matters at issue, in view of the fact that the attenderer is designated constitutionally as a principal legal advisor to the government and also the defendant in all civil matters which against the state, which includes Parliament, I felt it's constrained to present an opinion. Because really, these are matters that are so fundamental. And I think that I presented what I may call or term a balanced view. My balanced view was on account of on account of certain principles which I spelled out to Parliament. The first principle is that yes, Parliament has the power to legislate, but that power of legislation is subject to, as I said earlier on, certain constraints placed by the Constitution. So Article 108 of the Constitution places a restriction on the power of Parliament to pass a law which borders on of a financial nature, which also requires the state to assist financially. And I see this law as requiring some financial contribution by the state for its implementation.
Really?
Yes, because there's this requirement for the state to provide a prison for such convicts, for also this requirement for the state to also contribute to the rehabilitation of persons suffering from such impairment and all. And by the dictates of Article 108 of the Constitution, such a bill ought to emanate from the executive, yes, on the authority of the president. So that is one. So apart from that,
is it really driving the bill to a coup?
No. I think I also recognize that first. Secondly, I mean the government or the state. The state is empowered to enact legislation which will regulate family rights, adoption, marriage, succession, and whatever. And to that extent, this bill is not necessarily unconstitutional. That the state is empowered to enact legislation which will...
But this is a private member's bill. Is it considered within the context of state?
Yeah, because...
Parliament is state.
Yeah, Parliament is a state. And indeed, the bill affects everybody, whether it's private member or regulated or regulated by the executive. It affects everybody. And so... the point that I made is that yes, the state is empowered under Article 26 of the Constitution to enact legislation which will affect family matters and law. And therefore, if the state is enacting laws which will protect children against certain content deemed immoral, it's actually not unconstitutional, because Article 26 talks about the state enacting laws to protect children from physical and moral hazards. So that can be treated within the constitutional context. But such a law, whatever it is also subject to Article 12, Clause 2 of the Constitution. Article 12, Clause 2 of the Constitution requires or enjoys respect for all rights, but subject to the rights of others. So really, rights are not absolute at all. Recognize that rights in themselves can be curtailed on account of. And as such, another right, Article 17, Clause 1, which I've alluded earlier on to, is equality before the law. And then you talk about Article 17, Clause 2, further provisions, which prohibits discrimination against persons. And then also you have regard to other provisions of the Constitution, which border on freedom of expression. Article 21 borders on freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, and belief. And I also hold the view that indeed the effects of the law also repeat the existing law. Parts of the existing law are repeated in this bill. So I think that there's the prohibition on engage. Yes, sodomy. Clearly, sodomy is prohibited. Yes.
Advocacy about the rights of LGBT is really where the matter is. You don't seem to say that is right or wrong.
No, I have a view on that. So yes, yes. Again, if you situate it within the context of the constitutional provisions which prohibit or which empower the state to enact legislation which protect children and other persons against moral and physical hazards, then the law may not be unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Yes, but so apart from that,
so in your opinion, are you saying go ahead or don't go ahead?
So my opinion is that if Parliament wants to enact a law, first of all, they must be mindful of the effect on the existing law. Secondly, they also have to be mindful of the limitations imposed by Article 108 of the Constitution. And so the effect is that it presents a balanced view. I'm yet to appeal for the committee to actually argue the effect of it.
Yeah.
And so I would think that the law in its current form
is good enough.
No, may suffer some constitutional challenges. And therefore,
the bill in its current form.
The bill in its
may suffer some constitutional challenges.
Yes. So that's the view that.
So if I go to court now and take out a writ, if I take out a civil writ at the Supreme Court against the Attorney General on the LGBT, would you present a defense to say that bill is good or bill is bad?
No, so it depends on the specific provision that is sought to be struck down as unconstitutional, because you cannot go
the provision that a private member's bill cannot impose a financial burden on government.
I've expressed a view on that already.
Yeah,
but I'm saying that other parts of the bill are also not unconstitutional. There are parts of the bill which are constitutional.
Do you think the bill should be rewritten?
Yeah, I think, yes, it has to be rewritten. Rewritten has to be reviewed and all. Apart from that, I think that, yeah, because really, as I say, there's a prohibition on sodomy. You cannot, and I think I also made a point that clearly, yes, I am really seriously anti-gay. That's the point.
That you as an individual,
yes,
you're anti-gay.
Yes, 100%.
Because of your Christian values.
100%. Yes.
So you're anti-lesbians, gay,
yes,
bisexual, transgender.
Yes. I had the opportunity to express it on some program that I did, for 206.
If your brother or your brother's child, touch wood, I have to say because you're against it. If your sister's child shows signs of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender, you will be against the person?
Yeah, I think that it's abominable. I mean, my view, that's a personal view.
Christian view? Is it Christian view? Is cultural, historical?
Christian, moral, cultural, however you want to term it. And I would actually make a conscious effort to rid the person of such a situation. But
you will not beat up the person?
No, definitely not. So that's a view I also expressed in the bill. And generally, there's also prohibition by the laws of Ghana against torture and
violence.
Violence and all. You cannot subject a person, whether the person is gay or not, to any form of cruel or violent.
So if you get down the office today and there's a crowd of maybe 200 holding their LGBT colors and demonstrating, they're expressing advocacy, and you are to the Attorney General, these are the things that you should ban in Ghana. Is it to be banned or is it to be allowed?
I think so. That's actually quite a difficult question to answer, because you see, as I indicated, the Constitution also recognizes freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience and belief.
Okay,
that's why I had a problem with parts of the bill.
Yeah, I get it.
Which actually suggests that all persons have a duty to promote Ghanaian culture.
I understand.
No person.
So two sets of people demonstrating here. One with LGBT flag and talking about gay, lesbian, and all that. And then another, the other side of the road with a flag says Jesus is Lord. Yes. You are saying that they hold the same right under the Constitution.
No, but you cannot promote advocacy in respect of something that's prohibited or criminally prohibited by the laws of Ghana. You cannot advocate the commission of a crime. So you cannot advocate that, well, it should be free for any lawyer here to take anybody's book or iPad or it's not possible.
Oh, I get it. So the advocacy must be based on something that is legal.
Legal. Advocacy must be based on something that is
So you can't advocate on something that is currently illegal in our laws.
Yes, as far as I'm concerned.
Is transgender illegal in our laws?
So what is transgender? Because all this
transgender is I feel that I'm in a woman's body, so I want to be a woman. So I go to surgery and they enhance my female features.
I would think there is some sickness that you have to be rid of.
Bisexual.
Bisexual is which one?
I like men and I also like women.
No, but that's criminal, because you cannot be a man and have sexual relations with Yes.
If I like, I have not had sexual relations, I like it in my mind. I have not yet had sexual relations. Am I not allowed to advocate that I don't have any problem with this?
So, as I said, so that is really the most difficult question. Because really, you are expressing a view.
Yes.
The person will also express a view. So just as you are permitted to express your views on Christianity and all, another person should be permitted to express his views on Islam and perhaps promote. That kind of. So really, it's quite. So it depends on how the issues are formulated in the civil action the Supreme Court. And I'll answer. Now, first,
we'll be looking forward to your appearance in Parliament. We'll be looking forward to your appearance in Parliament and see how it goes. The next question that we will show you about what we asked the Attorney General is the NPP's capacity to break the haze. I have to apologize for poor sound quality and aspects of the video. I really am sincerely sorry about that. I'm just happy that a lot of the sound quality is my sound and not the guest sound. But we all from the studio apologize for that. It will not happen again. Thank you very much for your endurance and patience. We will show you another file. Hopefully the sound quality is better. Where the Attorney General is talking about why his government, the NPP, could break the haze. First, though, let's take a text message each from our people on this all-important LGBT topic, if they are getting any. Let me start with you, Mikhail.
Says, Paul, the issue of the LGBTQ is a non-starter. How can a woman fall in love with a colleague woman or a man fall in love with a man? The worrying thing is that some clergymen are also in support of this satanic thing in the name of human rights. Paul, I'm happy that LGBTQ cannot be practiced in the Islamic community because our almighty Holy Quran has vehemently forbidden us. So alhamdulillah for that. Alidu from UW, and the response to this is from Collins Appiah Jr. It says, simpliciter. If we can get men to be born like the Attorney General just did, Ghana will be saved. Now let's hear from you, Antoinette.
Okay, so this is coming from Solomon Johnson. He says, this is deep. Just in case says, what an intelligent Attorney General we have here in Ghana. Also coming from Shaxton Thompson, he says, good evening, Paul. Great man he is, on point for answering all questions perfectly. This young Attorney General really understands the law. Please, there is an issue which is not bringing serious problems to our chieftaincy sector. Please, is chief fisherman or a leader of fishermen a chief as well? This issue has been battled now at the Supreme Court, so we need clarification from the Attorney General. Fred Echampong is admiring Eunice's French. He says the French sounds nice, so Eunice have to be on Radio France Palm. Alhaj Bob Sidi, one of the best Attorney Generals of our time. Very vibrant, knowledgeable, factual, and know his staff very well. May Allah protect you, Mr. Godfred Odami, and good evening, Ghana, for us. Over to you, Karen.
Right, before that, I just wanted to highlight this. Nana Boachi was saying, why in French and not in any Ghanaian language? He was talking to when Eunice translated some messages into French, but not into any of our local Ghanaian languages. Let's hear from you, Karen.
Okay, from Citizen Bauer, he says, good evening, Paul. Keep up the good work. Tilly Duma says, hello, lovely family. Hello, Tilly. Obed Constant says, good evening, honorable. Keep up the good work. Aman. And then lastly from Solomon Jason says, smart AG. Over to you, Yolanda.
Yes, over to you, Yolanda.
Okay, so on my end, what we get is from Akoto Emmanuel Ado, who says, writing from Columbus, Ohio, please, the law courts take long time to finish one case. Come to the U.S. Homicide cases are finished in no time. Look at what the sexy Don Don and the police are doing. And then on to other things, we get a ride down memory lane from Kobna Entry Bosiako, who says, the NPP fixed Rollins mess, fixed cash and carry in the health sector, introduced free education at the basic level. Remember, the economy Rollins took over in 1981 was far better than he handed over in 2001. The NPP handed over a better economy with oil, NHIS, free education at the basic level in 2009. The NPP under Nana Akufo-Addo in its first term fixed doomsaw, the volatile economy, exited the IMF, introduced free SHS, fix salary arrears of public workers, fix job freeze, fix the teacher and nurses teaching allowance, fix the banking crisis. Show me what the NDC has ever fixed before. Thank you.
Okay, so that's political, so we are not there yet. We have to go on now to the political questions we asked the Attorney General, and we are being signaled that our time is running. If the video, we have 5 more minutes? Okay, so they've given us 5 more minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to cover that video. A lot of messages are coming in with commendation for our guest, the Attorney General, and some of them are also commenting our program. Thank you very much for staying tuned and watching. Okay, here's the Attorney General. On the political questions, I asked him that, will your party break the 8?
So will it be easier to break the 8 with Alhaji Bawumia, Alan Kyerematen, Kennedy Agyapong, Kwabena Agyapong, or Godfrey Dame? I think which one would be easier to break the 8?
I think the MPP has always been in a better position to break the 8. And indeed, in 2008, President Akufo-Addo nearly broke the 8 for the MPP. The very first round of the elections, Akufo-Addo was a victor, was he not?
He was, yeah.
He was the clear leader, no. But the second round, that somehow he was upset. So we have always stood the chance of breaking the 8. And I think that now, we still, on account of the human resources at our disposal, on account of the record of the government, indeed, we stand a better chance to break the 8. And so, breaking the 8, yes, of course, has not been done before. But so is the return of a former president to power.
That has also not been done before.
Has not been done before. So we go into the 20...
So both are breaking something. You want to break the 8, they want to institute a former president's return to power.
No, they want to reignite the past.
Reignite the past,
yes.
That's how you call it.
Yes, and I think that the people of Ghana will reject it with all... with every ability that they can command. And indeed...
But the MPP government right now is struggling. Over the last 1 year, it's been struggling.
Well, so hold on. So I come to that. So what is the NDC delivering right now? You look
An alternative.
You look at the recent election conducted by them, of their national executives. An assembly of the old stock.
Johnson
Asili. These are old names. Tried, tested,
Fifi Kwete.
perhaps dead, beaten already. They're all there. I mean, look at Asili Nketia, Fifi Kwete, all the old names. Even in terms of the national organizer. Is it the General Secretary? No, that's Fifi Kwete again. So, really, I do not see anything new at all. If at all, what the MPP confront now is an assembly of a crop of old people that they are familiar with, and therefore know how to beat them. Now, none of these people that you have mentioned, Alan Kyerematen, Dr. Bawumia,
Kennedy Agyapong,
has ever been in the saddle. President Mahama has been in the saddle. So we know what is made of. We know what his record is. I can point to developments in this office, and I can show a clear improvement on the record of this government as opposed to the NDC. Before, in this government, between 2017 and 2023, in terms of even the stock of vehicles available to this ministry, we have delivered more than half of the total number. My predecessor, Madam Grekufu, delivered 27 vehicles. Last year, 2022, on account of the support of the Minister of Finance, the President's decision at Cabinet, I delivered 91 vehicles.
Oh, 91 is significant.
91 vehicles.
Almost 100. 91
vehicles. The Law Reform Commission had only 1 vehicle, which is acquired way back in 1997. Legal Aid had only about 3 or 4 vehicles, the last of which was acquired in 2012. Other offices, so I used 91 vehicles. I doubled the stock of vehicles available to each agency and each regional office.
Let's talk about the Law House project.
We can talk about the human resource development.
The Law House project.
Yes, even before we come to the Law House, talking about it, because that's actually what is important, the human resource development of the office. Again, boosted it immeasurably. Last year, 70 attorneys were recruited. The year before, 2021, another 70 were recruited. Madam Grekufu's time, another 60 or 70 were also recruited. So really, in terms of boosting the personnel,
so within the 6 years, you recruited over 100 lawyers.
That's it. And this year, I hope that the Minister of Finance will not meet me with a response of the embargo on recruitment. I have actually applied for financial clearance to recruit about 50 or 60 more attorneys, and we did it because really.
Are you training some of them abroad? Are you doing?
Yes, we are. I mean, we recently, as a result of a collaboration that I sought to strike with Georgetown University, very prestigious university in America, 5 attorneys from Ghana are pursuing their Masters of Law degree. 3 of them from Ghana, 3 of them from the Ministry of Justice, 2 of them from the private sector. It is a collaboration to be engaging for the next 5 years. So Georgetown University is paying for half of their cost of studies and all that, and Ghana government is also paying for half of the cost and all. That includes stipends and all. But these are practical benefits. Apart from that, almost every month there's regular training of attorneys as a result of collaboration between this ministry and law firm, prestigious law firms abroad. You can mention them, Hogan Lovers and White and Case and other.
So you are boosting this office?
Boosting the human resource capacity and all that. And that's.
Then let's talk about the law house. Yeah. Yes, what's going to happen?
Yes, the law house, yes, is actually designated as a new office for the office space for the office of Attorney General. It's a project that was commenced remarkably by the President Akufo-Addo when he was Attorney General.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
A long time ago, in 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
and it's not been completed.
Actual construction started in 2003. By the time I assumed office as Attorney General in 2001, it was only at about 35% complete. It was only 35% complete. That's the record by ASL, which is a consultant for the project. Somehow, since I came, I've ensured that there's been an earnest construction of the project is going on, and I'm sure by the grace of God, within about 6 months or so, the law house will be done. The contractors assure us that they can finish less, but I think that, well, let's give or take maybe 6 months or even by the end of the year, it will be done. And this office will move into the law house. And so from a stage where it was 35% complete when I assumed the office, will be done. And yeah, so and these are development, and I'm saying that this kind of development cuts across
many ministries.
Every ministry has such a story. So you can see the effect, practical effect of the work of President Akufo-Addo.
And that could break the 8.
100%, because you don't break the 8 on account of nothing. You break the 8 on the strength of your work, your record and all. And I've already indicated that the difficulties we find ourselves in clearly are global. And there's, if the America, Britain and all cannot even absorb themselves of such a situation. How much? About September last year, I visited United States of America, lodged in a hotel. A year before, the same September, I visited America, lodged in the same hotel in Washington. That's actually when I brokered the Georgetown deal. I went to the president to the UN conference and I said, oh, I have this Georgetown scholarship to broker. He was also going to Washington. I said, oh, okay, I'll tag along. So we went to Washington. And the president was starting the train. I was just starting the train together with him and all that. And can you believe that the rate that we paid for the room, same category of room, had more than doubled?
By the next year?
By the next year. It was about 3 times.
Prices are shot up that much?
Shot up. And just last week, I read watching the news headlines on CNN, the price of milk, commodities
going up
and all that. And of course, even now there's actually an apprehension of fuel shortage and shortage of, difficulties with electricity and all that. So I think that perhaps we have been a little bit not too. We have defaulted a little bit in terms of our communication. I think that's an area that clearly,
as a government and as a party,
as a party, I think we have defaulted in conveying to the people the situation and making them accept and understand the actual causes. And so we find NDC people whose record, with all respect, is no better, shouting on radio about mismanagement and all that. But we saw the proceedings in Parliament with respect to the Kenneth Frater censure matter, which allegation of mismanagement could they establish. I don't think any at all.
Okay, finally, Cabinet reshuffle is in the offing. It may be announced the next hour. Are you confident that you will not be leaving this ministry for another ministry?
Well, I say at the behest with the pleasure of the president, and therefore in this office, of course, my destiny or my fate is in the hands of the president. Of course, I'm confident that by the grace of God, that I come to the work that I have done and continue to do. I do not expect any shock.
Do you fancy another ministry?
Well, you in the media are talking about collapse of ministries.
Yes.
Perhaps you add attention to the industry and finance.
Industry and finance, that's too big.
But that's what you're asking for.
Big.
That's what you guys are asking for.
No, we are asking for fisheries and agri to come together.
Attorney General and also Minister for Justice, Interior, Trade, Industry.
No, Attorney General can combine with Interior. I think and then have the police respond to the Attorney General as well.
I think that's actually the standard in the United States of America. The Department of Justice has jurisdiction over the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI.
The FBI, okay.
So the FBI is part of the
Justice Ministry, not the Interior Ministry.
No, not at all.
Okay.
But indeed, the view is taken that the ultimate effect of the work of the FBI or other investigative agencies of state is prosecution. And therefore, so why does the Attorney General not exercise supervision over the work?
But the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, don't they respond to you?
So I think that's
don't they bring you dockets?
Yeah. Well, I made this point not really with regards to any observation about a specific minister, or in fact, I must concede that the Minister for Interior has been one of my ardent supporters. I mean, he's been very cooperative. He's been in this office and appreciates the difficulties of the office and all. And so in terms of commitment to me, he's actually one of the most committed. But I think that is some reform of the law that ought to be done, where we get to the stage where the CID is under the Ministry of Justice. And that's actually what prevails in the States of America. In the U.S., the Department of Justice, just like other investigative agencies, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and all, the such institutions on tobacco, drugs, and all. They are all under the Attorney General, who is the head of the Department of Justice. I think that will solve the situation where every now and then people are asking about some cases, what is happening to them. So at the Human Rights Day last year, for instance, people were asking about Amerswali murder and all that. And of course, I had discussions with the former IGP, Opombuenu, when he came, paid a case call on me, he talked about it, and he outlined the processes that the outfit Criminal Investigations Department was undertaking with. But I'm saying that if indeed the CID was under the jurisdiction of the Attorney General, clearly that AG can exercise direct control and monitor such cases and all. So that's a real impediment to justice delivery. But I think that's an argument in the long term. We can look at it ultimately.
Attorney General, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Yes, I hope I have done justice to the issues that were agitating your mind.
We will send you the comments of our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Yes.